what we will unveil now, the questions that some of you may have. And I appreciate the patience. I see some of these questions popping up again and again. I'm going to try to get to some of them. Let's see what we can do here. First, I got to find the GIF. Here it is. John Travolta looking around. All right. PFT PM Posse, in an alternate universe, timeline, simulation, Patrick Mahomes is a 49er with Shanahan as his head coach. In this alternate reality, how good, bad do you think the 49ers and Chiefs are? Is Mahomes still the face of the NFL and its best player, especially if Kyle forced him to play within his scheme? I think at some point, Kyle Shanahan would have been smart enough to realize that he had a quarterback that he should let have the freedom to improvise and practice the improvisation. That's what the Chiefs do. All of that stuff that we see Patrick Mahomes do, he's told me last year that it's what he does in panic mode. They practice panic mode. So it's something, he's been there, he's done that. He's been in situations where he has to come up with something when the play that's called doesn't work. That's what it's all about. See, Kyle Shanahan believes, and maybe Mahomes never develops as that guy. Maybe with Mahomes, the play that's called always does work, because Shanahan believes if you just run the play that I've called to go against his defense, it's going to work. If you run it as it's designed, it's going to work, and it's going to gain yardage, first down, touchdown, etc. Maybe we would have been deprived of some of the best things we've ever seen from Patrick Mahomes because he wouldn't have had to resort to those. He just operate within the confines of the offense and not run around and use the crazy arm angles and out of position body alignments. Maybe he wouldn't have had to do it. Who knows? But I do think the 49ers would have at least 2 Super Bowl wins, at least 2, with Patrick Mahomes as the starting quarterback. And who knows who the Chiefs quarterback would have ended up being. What would they have done? Would they have targeted Lamar Jackson in 2019 or one of the other quarterbacks that year? 2018, in 2018. If they didn't get Patrick Mahomes in 2017, would they have gone with Deshaun Watson instead of Patrick Mahomes? If Mahomes had been taken by the 49ers 3rd overall that year, or 2nd after they traded up 1 spot with the Bears. No, wait, they traded down 1 spot. They were 2nd. They traded down with the Bears. The Bears went up to number 2 to get Mitchell Trubisky, the first quarterback off the board that year. That's going to be a hell of an answer to a trivia question someday. The quarterback drafted before Patrick Mahomes in 2017. So anyway, I think the Chiefs would still be fine. Would they be great? I don't know. But I think the 49ers would be great. The 49ers would now be leading the NFL with 7 Super Bowl wins if they had taken Patrick Mahomes, I firmly believe. Alex McDougall, or Alan McDougall, sorry, my phone's too far away from my face. How are the gambling suspensions going to get, let me try that again. Alan McDougall, how bad are the gambling suspensions going to get this season? I don't know. This may be all of it. Maybe they're trying to clear everything off before we get to training camp so it's not a distraction. Hopefully players now understand what they can and can't do. My question continues to be, how much work is the NFL doing beyond the obvious? Players betting on sports they shouldn't bet on, or betting in places they shouldn't be betting, whether it's at work, on the road, for work, staying in the team hotel, etc. What other potential violations are being investigated and possibly detected? We don't know the answer to that question, but I don't think it's going away anytime soon. Hunter Wallace, what do you think are the stipulations that Jerry Jones has for firing Mike McCarthy? Is it anything less than an NFC championship game appearance? I think he really, really wanted Sean Payton and would have given him $20 million per year. One of the things that we reported in Playmakers was how close the Cowboys came to getting Sean Payton in 2019. It didn't work out. There was never a strong sense, though, that Jerry Jones was willing to throw Mike McCarthy overboard for Sean Payton when Payton was available. But when you look at the changes they made to the coaching staff, especially firing Kellen Moore, the offensive coordinator, and giving Mike McCarthy the power over play calling, it just creates a sense that this is it. Be careful what you wish for, McCarthy. Now you got to go prove yourself. You got to go prove that you can do this. You got to make this happen. You got to design the plays. You got to call the plays. You got to manage the game as the head coach. And if it works, great. And if it doesn't, we're going to find another coach. And I don't know who he's thinking about. Some people think Dan Quinn will be the next coach of the Cowboys if McCarthy gets fired. I don't know about that, because you still need a great offensive coordinator. And if your offensive coordinator is good enough and the team is good enough, you lose him. That's why I'm a big proponent of hiring offensive coaches, not defensive coaches, in today's NFL. So I don't know what the minimum is. They've been 12-5 each of the last 2 seasons. Is it get to the NFC Championship game? Is it good enough to get to the divisional round? Does it come down to how they lose? Do they lose again on some ill-designed or ill-executed final play like they did each of the last 2 years against the 49ers? No, it was the clumsy quarterback draw in 2021, and it was the Stanford band play that got blown up, sir, along with Ezekiel Elliott before it could even get started this past year. How do you exit? When do you exit? And what are the alternatives to Mike McCarthy come 2024? Jerry Jones gets a very strong sense of responsibility and ownership of his coaches. And he feels like, you know what, I've put in the time with this person and he's getting better. And eventually he's going to be even better. And I want him to be here when he's the best version of himself. It's one of the reasons why he was so patient with Jason Garrett. This is a guy he found and cultivated, and he thought he was going to get himself another Tom Landry. He made the comment earlier this year that he wants Mike McCarthy to coach as long as Tom Landry did. The timeline isn't quite adding up. Mike McCarthy's going to be coaching deep into his lifetime if that ultimately happens. And Jerry Jones will be far deeper into his own if he plans to be around to witness Mike McCarthy being the next Tom Landry. But that's what I think they're looking for, the next Tom Landry, And kind of a high bar to find a Tom Landry, especially a guy that's going to be your coach for 30 years and do it as well as Landry, one of the greats of all time, did it. Lee Dale, what happens if one of the teams pulls the franchise tag from a player after Monday's deadline? Are they still only able to sign a one-year deal, even if it's with a different team? If the franchise tag is removed, if it's stripped of the player and he becomes a free agent, he can sign whatever he wants. And I'm pretty sure he can sign a long-term deal with his current team as a free agent. Because at that point, you're competing with all the other teams. Let's go see what your market is. Oh, you think you're worth this? Let's remove your franchise tag and see what happens. I think he could do a long-term deal with his current team if the franchise tag is removed. I'm going to have to research that to confirm it, but I think he can. I know that he definitely can with any other team after July 15. He's no longer a franchise tag player. He's a free agent at that point. The one wrinkle that has never been fully answered, and we're not sure what the CBA dictates on this point. An offer sheet extended to a franchise tag player after July 15. We think it can still happen. So let's say, and it's not going to happen because no one's given up 2 first-round picks for a running back. Let's say there was a quarterback out there. Let's say Lamar Jackson was still tagged, non-exclusive, and we get past July 17. And the deadline has come and gone for the Ravens to sign him to a long-term deal. But then some other team had signed him to a long-term deal on July 18. Can the Ravens match that? I think they can, if that would ever happen. I think the team that otherwise can't do a multi-year deal can match an offer sheet if there's still an offer sheet to come, because the ability to sign a non-exclusive franchise tag player to an offer sheet still exists after the middle of July. So that's the one wrinkle that's never been tried, never been proven, never been used. But that's one way to do it. But I also think removing the franchise tag, there could be something in the CBA that says if the franchise tag is removed after July 15, the team that applied it can't sign the player. But I've never heard about that. And I think just the mere fact that the team would be in competition with every other franchise out there for the player and he'd become a true free agent, I don't see why you wouldn't be able to sign to a long-term deal. Now, it's got the potential for shenanigans because you could have the team and the agent work out an understanding that no matter what anyone else offers, the player is going to accept this. So let's say it's Barkley and the Giants. And this is all just hypothetical. I'm not saying anyone's considering doing this, but let's say we get to right before the start of the regular season. And the agent says to the Giants, maybe we can work this out for $14 million a year. Craig Carton's been saying he thinks Barkley's going to sign by Monday for $14 million a year. Let's say it's $14 million a year come September. But, we can't do a long-term deal. I'd like to do a long-term deal. How about this? You remove the franchise tag. I'll give you my word that we're not going to sign with any other team, and we'll sign a contract with you for the $14 million. Now, there'd be some unenforceable promises made there, and you better trust the person. And if they burn you, you're never going to trust them again. But that's one way to potentially do it if it's allowed. And that would make me think there's a reason to believe in the CBA it's not allowed, that you would try to remove that very easy way of circumventing the letter and the spirit of the rule. But now I'm intrigued. I'm going to go see if I can find the answer to that if I remember. Let's see what else we have here. Manuel Villa, is there a scenario in which the Cardinals lose their first round pick next year if and when the NFL launches an investigation into the workplace practices? I don't think there's been enough of a critical mass for the NFL to do that. When Terry McDonough initially made his complaint and alluded to employees who had been treated poorly, allegedly, by owner Michael Bidwell, I thought, hey, you know what? This is the first drop. Let's see how much more happens. Let's see what else is out there. Let's see who else comes forward, and no one did. It's going to take something to get the NFL to even launch an investigation. And even at that point, I don't think it's the kind of thing that would result in draft picks being removed. It would be punishment imposed upon Michael Bidwell or others in the organization. All right, let's see what else we have here. Manuel Villa, is it possible the Vikings are slow playing the Justin Jefferson extension to use him as a trade chip in a Caleb Williams trade with a minimum cap penalty? I don't think that has anything to do with it. I think they want to keep Justin Jefferson. The problem is their guarantee structure. They need to deviate from their usual structure of basically doing the guarantees as you go without having future guarantees fully guaranteed beyond the current year. That's one thing they do that they may need to break from in order to get Justin Jefferson signed. And the other reality is he's not pushing real hard. He's not suggesting a holdout. He's already said he's going to be there. So if he's fine with it, that makes it easier to take advantage of him. And there's plenty of teams that take advantage of a player's good nature. The only problem is if you push it too hard and you alienate the player, then you got a problem. And I think they should get Justin Jefferson done because it's not going to get cheaper. It's definitely not going to get cheaper. So I hope they're not considering some secret plan to flip Justin Jefferson for picks, or if they think, you know what, we'd rather have a franchise quarterback than a franchise receiver. Although frankly, I mean, if you get a great franchise quarterback, that is more valuable than even the best receiver you could have. It really is. As much as I never want to see Justin Jefferson play for a team other than the Vikings, the bigger objective is to have somebody who's going to be the answer at the quarterback position for 10 to 15 years, who can do all the things that the great quarterbacks can do, can run it, can throw it, can do it all and help you win a game. Then you go find the receivers to put around that player. Philip Rooney II, Hard Knocks or the New York media? Which one gets under Aaron Rodgers' skin first? I don't know, because I don't know how aggressive the New York media is going to be at his introductory press conference when training camp opens. I don't know how often he's going to be available. They were very kid glovish with him when he signed with the team, traded, whatever. No questions about anything controversial, no vaccine questions. You're taking a paycheck from Johnson & Johnson heir Woody Johnson. Any comments on that? You know, he said some things at the ayahuasca or the psychedelics conference. I mean, if they wanted to push, they could push. I think for now, everybody's getting along. My guess is Hard Knocks will get under his skin before the media, because I feel like Hard Knocks is already under his skin. Who is feeding the bear while you are gone? Hopefully no one. Hopefully no one is the food for the bear, although we're regularly checking the cameras and talking to the folks who are back on the home front, and everything is fine. Alahad, what are your honest opinions on the number 2 and number 3 quarterbacks for the Titans, Malik Willis and Will Levis? As a Titans fan at this moment, either starting next year makes me nervous. My expectations this year are be competitive and fight for a playoff spot. If we sign DeAndre Hopkins, we're closer to dark horses. Look, I think Levis is the guy. Even though there was a suggestion from Jim Wyatt of the Titans official website that Malik Willis outperformed Will Levis in the offseason program, Levis is the guy. Levis, they would have taken with the 11th overall pick if Peter Skoronski wasn't there. They traded up to get Levis. That's the guy Vrabel wants over the long term. Willis, I think, was a guy that John Robinson wanted that Vrabel didn't want. Vrabel benched him for Josh Dobbs late in the season. And when I saw that Dobbs was playing instead of Willis in the Cowboys Thursday night game, I just thought, well, they're keeping Willis healthy for the playoff run or for the Week 18 winning in game against the Jaguars. And then, nope, Dobbs is playing in that one too. So I don't think Vrabel believes in Willis. There's merit to the idea of keeping 3 on the roster because you need to have 3 on the 50-man roster in order to use the third quarterback rule on game day. When you consider how many different players they shuttled in and off of the Titans roster the past couple of years, the idea of using one of the 53-man roster spots on a third quarterback may not be all that palatable to Mike Vrabel. So bottom line, Levis is the guy, and I think Willis won't be there. And if Willis is going to be there, he's really going to have to get Mike Vrabel's attention with some performance at practice and in games better than what we saw last year. Here's another one, and I think you're starting to just troll me now. Why did they stop showing you on Sky Sports? Look, we're on hiatus. There's nothing to put on Sky Sports. I'm not going to put this on Sky Sports. It's just me talking in a sort of dark room at the beach or at my office at home or whatever. PFT Live returns, and there's no timing. There's not able to throw into break. It's just me. It's just babbling on and on for clips that we put at the website and that we put on YouTube. July 24, 10 days from now, that's when PFT Live is back on Peacock and presumably back on Sky. Aaron Jager, this is a good question. Do you ever feel there's a dichotomy between your work and the interests of fans? I ask this because you're trying to view the NFL reasonably while fans primarily stick to tribal loyalties and forego reason when evaluating their favorite, least favorite teams and players. Yeah, and I've talked about this recently. The Cardinals are the best example. The Cardinals have problems. The Cardinals are dysfunctional. The Cardinals right now, I think, are the most dysfunctional football operation in the NFL. Cardinals fans get mad at me when I point that out. They get mad at me when I criticize them for something because they circle the wagons and they defend the bird gang against any and all attacks, not realizing that my criticism is aimed at getting them to address the situation, the football organization, to address the situation and make things better. That's why at a certain point, I'll just say, fine, everything's fine. Don't need to improve anything. Keep doing what you do. You do football great. Continue to be exactly what you are. Make no effort to get any better. And so that happens all the time. Anytime there's an effort to criticize a franchise, a player, a coach, whatever, the fans of that team, that player, that coach take it personally, and they think it's some sort of an attack. It's kind of like you can say something about someone in your family to another family member, but God forbid anybody outside the family says anything about that family member, even if it's 100% accurate, and it's something that family member needs to know about to improve that person's overall prospects in life. It's one thing for us to say it. You can't say it. So, yeah, I experience that on a fairly regular basis. David Mitchell, please review the Favre versus Mississippi welfare situation. It's a civil case, right? Does that mean no jail time? What's the worst case scenario for Brett Favre? Repay the money directed to the university, pay a fine. How do you see it playing out? Well, look, at the risk of getting sued, I will keep this very general. There are civil allegations against Brett Favre related to the misappropriation of welfare funds. He has claimed all along he did not misappropriate anything. He didn't know where the money came from. He had no idea it was welfare money, etc. One of the items that we posted recently relates to Favre's position. He's not going to invoke the Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination when testifying in the civil case. A lot of times we'll see that if there's a potential for criminal liability, someone, when questioned in the civil case, will invoke the Fifth Amendment, which basically kills their defense in the civil case. When you have people saying that you did something that you shouldn't have done, and therefore you owe somebody money over it, and your response is to invoke your Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination, it's kind of hard to believe your position that you didn't do anything wrong. If Favre is going to throw caution to the wind and testify and answer tough questions and be grilled under cross-examination, some of that evidence could become further fuel for a potential prosecution. Or he could perjure himself inadvertently or intentionally while testifying under oath to what he knew and what he didn't know and when he knew it. And non-lawyers think they can they can fence effectively with lawyers. They have no idea what it's like because that's not their life. Good lawyers who know how to properly interrogate a witness, know how to tie you up in knots and get you to create the impression you're not telling the truth, even when you're trying to tell the truth. So it just wears you down, and it wears you down. It's a few good men. Eventually, you admit to ordering the code red. You get so worn down by a skillful questioner that you just can't help yourself. That's why so many criminal defendants don't testify at trial. And it's why so many civil defendants who are facing the potential for criminal prosecution will invoke the Fifth Amendment. They'd rather lose. They'd rather tank the civil case than put themselves in position to end up being accused of some sort of criminal misconduct. Favre is confident that's not going to happen, or he wouldn't be testifying or agreeing to testify in this civil case. A Red Zone Out, is Hollywood grinding to a halt good news for the NFL and its potential viewing numbers? Well, hell yeah, there's no competition. Now, look, it's not like the NFL has any current competition as it is when it comes to scripted TV versus the ultimate reality show, which is the NFL. But I think this fall, football has even greater value because there's not going to be any fall lineup. There's not going to be any shows. There's not going to be anything new unless you've got some of the networks out there that have a backlog of shows ready to go. It's good for the NFL. JC, is Dennis Allen on the hot seat? I don't know. I don't think he is. I'd be nervous about John Gruden sniffing around if I was Dennis Allen. Maybe it shows how secure he is in his position. But they were okay last year. Now, look, any coach is just one really bad year away from being on the hot seat. But I think Dennis Allen is fine. He's done great things with that defense. They just didn't have a quarterback last year. Andy Dalton and Jameis Winston. Let's see what they do with Derek Carr. But Allen has been a great defensive coordinator. They went through some bad defensive coordinators, historically bad. And I was sold on Allen the night that Sean Payton was on the COVID list. It was a Sunday night, and the Saints went to Tampa Bay and shut out the Buccaneers 9-0 when Tom Brady was playing quarterback. So I think Allen should be fine. But one bad season is enough to put a guy on the hot seat. Hurricane Dave, what is your standard breakfast order if you go to a restaurant? Good Lord. I like eggs with the yolk fully cooked. And I always get nervous about ordering them that way because inevitably I poke the fork through the skin of the fried egg and yolk runs out. And I hate runny yolk, but I like it when it's fully cooked. And I love making it at home the way that I like, my way. But I like eggs over hard, fully hard, bacon, maybe some sort of potato, but I don't really need it. I'd rather have extra bacon and toast, white toast. That's mine. And coffee, at least 2 cups of coffee. One more from Hurricane Dave, and we'll call it. Other than not gambling, what's the best piece of advice Butch ever gave you? Butch is my dad, who was the bookie for years. And he told me at a young age, you can't win when it comes to gambling. Don't do it because you can't win. Everything's rigged against you, and ultimately it is. You may win a little bit, but that little bit you win is just the drug that gets you to keep coming back until you lose and you lose and you lose some more. The best advice he ever gave me, and he didn't articulate it this way directly, but it was the message I gleaned from what he said. And it's something that he told me when I started law school. He said, the best thing you can do is act like you're already a lawyer. And I took that and made it into, you should always act as if you already are whatever it is you're trying to be. Act accordingly as you're in the pursuit of being that thing. And maybe you can act it into existence. So other than acting like a successful gambler, don't do that. Anything that you are trying to accomplish in life, behave as if you already are that thing. And maybe the wisdom is that over time, you eventually do become that thing that you're trying to be.
Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.